Hey, fellow Star Wars fans, I'm Mike, and you're watching Force Within TV. And today I want to talk about whether or not Forces of Destiny has been a success or failure so far. And I think to answer that question, we really need to look at what is the purpose of Forces of Destiny? Is it to, bring more young girls into the fandom? Is it to test out an online web series for the Disney Channel or 2D animation in general? Is it to sell merchandise to girls? Was that really the only reason? And is it was it just to create something interesting and entertaining? So those are some of the different things that I'm going to go through in this video, starting with number one, which is probably the most important to me. I have three little girls, two of which are old enough to sort of already come to the conclusion that Star Wars is dad's thing. It's sort of a boys thing. So I was very excited when Forces of Destiny came out, and I was able to say, "Hey, there's this girls show, Star Wars show, and you guys are really gonna like it." However, the girls were excited, like I mentioned, but it's cool for them to see strong female leads, but at the same time, I just feel like this was way too short, right? Like I've been showing them the daily shorts and or even a couple back to back. It's only a few minutes, so it's not. I don't believe it's having a huge impact on them. They certainly haven't been talking about this series after the fact. They are certainly up on their Star Wars lore and they know a lot of the characters, but at the same time, I don't think we're transitioning. They're not transitioning away from thinking that, Star Wars is a boy thing or dad's thing to their thing. Maybe a little bit, but not that much. Whereas if you look at something like DC, what DC is doing with Superhero High, they've actually put out a movie. You can purchase and download internationally. They have they have a full on cartoon series about young female superheroes, Batgirl, Wonder Woman, all these different superheroes. My girls are definitely into that show. They're definitely into superheroes. They've been asking for the merchandise. They've been asking for the dolls, or not really dolls, but the action figures. So there's a big difference there, and I think I'm afraid that Star Wars is testing the waters here, and this is as far as they're going to go, and it's not far enough. That said, once I'm able to purchase some of the merchandise for the girls, maybe that will change things. But again, I think this is too short a form, and we'll talk more about that later. But let's get on to number two now, which is test out an online web series or sort of this two-dimensional animation. So as of Saturday morning, these episodes have a combined 1 million views. I mean, that's not bad. They still have a lot of time. There's people, fanatic fans have already checked them out, but there's lots of other people who will, slowly go to Disney's YouTube channel, check them out, hear about Forces of Destiny, and show their girls, that sort of thing. So it's certainly not bad, but it's going to continue to grow, and I think it's a great start. Absolutely. Second point here is there does seem to be a lot of hate for the two-dimensional style of animation. People talking about sort of going backwards here, and personally, I actually really enjoy it. I think it's definitely cool. It's also the fact that this is a female-centric animation show, or whatever you want to call it, really series, I suppose would be a better word. And a lot of people are misinterpreting that as sort of being sexist or something. So it is the internet. There's a lot of hate on the internet. There's a lot of confused people on the internet. Obviously, this Forces of Destiny is supposed to. We've had a lot of great male characters in Star Wars. It's been very male centric, and we're just trying to get some females in there. And as a father, again, as a father, I think that's very important, right? I want my girls to have strong female leads to look up to and emulate, so that they go out into the world and make it a better place, and are strong female leads. All right, another point here I say is, why not give us a cheap 2D web series? I mean, I just want more Star Wars. It would be so cool to see, a weekly, even if it's only 5-minute shows, right? I mean, surely Disney is making some money off this with all the views and the merchandising, right? Surely they would probably make more money off the toys, in fact. But I think give us a series. Wouldn't it be interesting if they gave us a new animation series, a new adult animation series? Would be really cool. Keeping it cheap in 2D, see how well it does. Of course, that probably wouldn't fit in the Disney Channel, but maybe something, maybe 10-minute shorts on Netflix or something like that. That could be really cool, just to test out that sort of adult mini series, or going in that direction with Star Wars. So looking at number 3 here, is the purpose of this mini series just to sell merchandise? Is that really, they were like, you know what, we really need to sell more to girls, more merchandise to girls, so let's just do a mini series to promote the actual figures. I mean, that's one, maybe that's their whole point, but we know Star Wars collectors are going to buy whatever is put out there, just about. And going back to my point earlier, that I just don't think these shorts were long enough to really convince my girls that, yeah, I need these dolls. So I think it comes down to, maybe it was just to promote the dolls, promote them to, dads like me or parents, and then we see the Forces of Destiny animation. Even though they are short, they will have an impact on us. It is like advertising for that merchandise, and then we go out when it's available and purchase it. The only problem with that theory is, that the merchandising isn't available until August. So why put it out in July, right? You'd think that they'd put out the animation series and then have the merchandising available. It's just kind of weird timing, so I don't think that's really what they were going for. So looking at our 4th question, is this entertaining? And I tend to think that the shorts are fairly entertaining. I mean, obviously they're aimed at a very young demographic, so they're not overly entertaining. I like to think of them as sort of like deleted scenes. Ken Knapsack, over at Collider Video had a great analogy. He said they are sort of like being out in the yard with your figures and trying to fill in the gaps between the movies and those sort of, like I mentioned, deleted scenes. So yeah, very cool way to think about it. Cool analogy, but certainly entertaining enough. My girls were engaged for the 2 to 3 minutes that they were actually watching. I certainly was. Was I overly thrilled? Not particularly. I mean, especially with the Ahsoka and Anakin episode there, I thought we'd learn something about the Force tree, as I mentioned in my predictions video. But at the end of the day, they have great messages for our young children. Whether it's Rey treating the big trash monster with compassion. I forget exactly what he's called, but trash monster actually sounds pretty good. And that coming back, to help her out, or it's Ahsoka, even though she's late for a big meeting, taking the time to help out and seeing how Yoda responds to her being late. I think they are entertaining. They have great messages in them. I'm a canon junkie. Would I like to see more little snippets of hints at what's to come in Star Wars Rebels Season 4? Oh yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, these are, meant for kids, and they're very short. It's hard to cram too much in them, for sure. So, I think one more thing, just talking about the entertainment value here, is perhaps, Dave Filoni did mention that this is just basically a test, right? And perhaps what we will get down the line, there have been rumors about an Ahsoka animation series, and I was listening to some Rebel Force radio the other day, and they had mentioned that, perhaps there was going to be this Ahsoka series after Star Wars Rebels. And perhaps that will actually get rolled into something like a movie instead of an animation, an Ahsoka animation series. Perhaps it would be a movie. If I was part of the marketing department at Disney, or Star Wars, Lucasfilm, whatever it might be, whatever we want to call it, I would suggest that they put together, say 3 1-hour movies with, Ahsoka, Sabine, maybe Rey or one of the other female lead characters, and they publish those, put them on Netflix, make them available cheap on Xbox and PS4, whatever, those platforms that people are usually downloading, iTunes and whatnot. And then, dads like me can download them, show the kids, and they're going to have more of an impact on them, right? An entire hour of Star Wars with a female lead is going to have much more impact than just having these little shorts. So that is sort of my plea to Star Wars. Please give me those 1 hour sort of, even if it's 2D animation to keep it cheap, right, and the budget low. You could follow several different characters. It wouldn't even have to be all female leads, but that's what I would like to see in the future out of Star Wars animation that is specifically targeting younger audiences. Longer format, please, Dave Filoni and the crew at Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing, checking out my Jedi Train Like a Jedi series. Maybe check out a recent video, or down in the video description you will find several links to my website, including a table of contents of all the Train Like a Jedi series.